Hey there, neighbors. My name is Joshua Walker, and I live down at the end of the street on the right. And it's been my privilege the last year to serve with Terry and Randy on the HOA Board of Directors. And we really appreciate your flexibility in being able to hold our annual meeting this way. In an ideal world, next year we'll be back at the Delaware Township Center meeting in person. But since we cannot do that, we're very grateful that we can accomplish the business that we need to address by email. We wanted to put a personal touch on it and highlight certain of the items on the agenda specifically. So we put together a few of these videos, 3 of them that'll hopefully be quite brief but also informative to keep you guys up to date on what's going on. So this one's going to cover everything on the agenda except for the finances and the committees. Those will each get their own video. But here we're going to work through the agenda. Hopefully you received your email that let you know that the meeting was coming back in February, and the minutes from last year are included in that email as well. Moving forward to the roll call section, we have new neighbors on lot 2. That's number 8310. Second on the left as you drive into the neighborhood. The Hintons have moved in the last couple of weeks after we said farewell to the Herbsts. So make sure you take the opportunity as you get the chance to welcome the Hintons and their daughter to the neighborhood and let them know how welcome they are here. Their information has been added to the directory, and I'll circulate that around with this email as well. Moving on to the directors section, the bylaws call for 4. We can get the work done with 3, but we like to have 4. The bylaws call for 4, so it's really proper and official, but also the many shoulders make light work. But we've been making it work with 3. Many thanks to Randy for being the treasurer these last few years, picking up from when Tim moved away. He's done a great job with it, getting us up to date and proper, and he's prepared the budget into the next year, and he's made the transition really smooth. So our thanks to Randy. He is stepping away from the board and is intending to move closer to family. So Terry has agreed to move from vice president up to president. I'm going to slide over and be the treasurer, and we are hoping to welcome Dan Dunham onto the board as the vice president with your approval, of course. So attached to this email or included with it is going to be the ballot. If you do one thing after these videos and emails, we need your response on the ballot. You can vote up, you can vote down, or you can write in somebody else for one of those offices. But do please get back in touch with us so this can be official. Now, the reason we try to make things so official, not just so that we can be transparent and accountable, but because we've seen how it can be the other way. Many of us remember what it was like back when we were in the hands of the developer, and she wasn't a malicious lady, but she was in over her head and she didn't know what she was doing, and she didn't do it very well. So we're very glad to have this in our own hands, just the 16 of us, but it does mean that the responsibility is on us. So thanks to everybody for being good neighbors and being cooperative, and thanks to everybody who's pitched in on the board or on either one of the committees, but we do want to keep things official for that reason, just because we've seen how bad it can be when it's not. Last up is the unfinished business and new business. There are 2 things that belong in this category. You can let us know about other things you'd want to see us address, but the columns that are along the fence and the big tree are both future expenses that are inevitable. The stone that's on the columns has been falling off these last 15 years, and lately Dan has been doing a great job of picking them up and gluing them back on. So many thanks to Dan for keeping them looking as good as they do, which is not bad at all, but there's only so far down the road that we can kick that can, and eventually we're going to have to just rebuild them, and it's going to be expensive. The other big expense that we're facing is that tree. It is wonderful, but it's been struck by lightning more than once, and eventually it's going to come down. Now, it looks great right now, and when it comes down, it's not going to hit anybody's house, we don't think, but it's not going to come down any place good. It'll go through the fence or the lamppost or onto one street or the other, and it'll be an expensive mess to remove it when the time comes. It's been our pattern to keep the dues set at a level that'll fund our current operations without losing money and depleting our reserves or growing them excessively. We don't want to be sitting on a pile of our own money when we could be hanging on to it until we need it. And that's been our pattern, and I think probably should continue to be so unless there's strong arguments otherwise. Eventually, we will be facing one or the other or both of those expenses, and we'll do an assessment at that time. But for the time being, we're going to keep the dues at $6 or $6.50 in order to keep the finances stable, but not too far up or too far down. That's it for everything on the agenda except for those 2 others. So again, thanks to everybody. Welcome to the Hintons, and we'll see you back again in a moment.